I am the founder and owner of Scale Time. We basically are helping digital marketing agencies break through that like 1.33 million and 7 million plateaus by using systems and processes to pull the owner out of the weeds and get the team to be really high performance. As the economy got a little funky, what I was really looking to do was broaden my marketing channels, right? And being able to use podcasting as an actual marketing channel that I could use for lead generation, right? And it's where owners hang out, they're listening to podcasts, whether like during the day, while they're cooking dinner, while they're in the car, right? Like, so this is a place where, our avatar is actually living. So that's a huge deal. And it's a long form content. So by the end of, whether it's anywhere between 15 minutes to a full hour of a podcast, they've gotten to fully know me and really create that know, like, and trust, right? And so now the challenge, which I think is one that Interview Valet really solved, was how do we get people from listening to booking a call and becoming a really good qualified lead? One of the things with podcast guesting, and I had done podcasts before, right? And I had tried a couple different things, right? So one, in my circles, I had been asked to guest on different podcasts, via friends and colleagues that, were well known. I had tried a couple of different podcast platforms, and, you sign up on a subscription basis and, you write your sort of brief, and they play matchmaker in the back end. And they had worked okay. The results were really inconsistent. You don't know, like, whether or not you're going to get matched to something. You're not really clear on whether it's the right audience for you. Sometimes you can do really well and get on a bunch of podcasts, but they may not be the right ones for you. So like now you're wasting your time because you've got all these podcasts on your schedule. So that was one thing, right? Like, could this really solve reliability for me, right? Could I get reliably good podcasts with my audience trying to achieve my goal? That was one. Two, the other concern that I had was, could podcasting actually lead to sales calls, right? Because it's like, all right, well, someone's, I don't know, cooking, and how are they going to actually come through and decide to book a call with you, right? I wasn't sure about that. So that was my second concern. And I think the last concern was like, would I actually make any money of it, right? Like would I have a return on investment? Like, was it worth my acquisition? So I would say reliability, actual, like, is this going to work, and is this going to work for my market? How easy it was. I was just surprised about how absolutely easy it was and how much it worked. Right? I was like, this works and it's easy. That for me, I think was the most surprising thing. I know a lot of people that have their own podcast and guest on podcasts, and it always feels like this convoluted process, that's like, a little, PR, a little backlinky, a little outreach, a little sales, a little biz dev, like it's a lot, right? And for me to be able to just approve the podcast and then show up to the podcast is phenomenal. Like, it is just so easy. Interview Valet just really took care of everything, soup to nuts. And they continue to take care of everything. So I think that's the most surprising thing. Absolutely. So, in the beginning, right, like kind of going back to the things that I was like, I don't know, if this is gonna work, and all that jazz, right? Like, and I've been approached by a lot of different podcast brokers, if it were, right, like, and this just felt different. This felt really like an extension of the team. It felt like a partnership. It felt like, from the beginning, the onboarding process was seamless. And I felt like they really tried to figure out exactly who I wanted to speak to, right? And I think that's so important. So I think, that was one of the first things that I was like, oh, this is a really great part of the process. I'm not wondering whether or not I'm going to get on a podcast and then I'm talking to, a completely random audience. So yeah, I definitely think that the audience selection was on point. The account managers that really take care of me, give me feedback, tell me how my campaigns are doing, really taught me, okay, what do we need to do to make sure that from the podcast, there's a clear campaign so that people can book calls and they're excited to book calls, and or they're excited to have other resources that I already had available. All we're doing is really leveraging it to create more impact for the audience. So I think the educational process was great. The onboarding process was really simple. The audience selection was on point. And then the continued management of, giving me feedback in terms of like, what are the numbers, trying to like almost every other month as we're getting podcasts, creating more credibility and optimizing the campaign was something that I also didn't expect. I sort of expected it to be like set it and forget it, but it's a continual process because with podcasting as well as any other media, like you kind of start off as like a little tadpole and you're like, all right, I'm here. And then, you start getting on a couple podcasts and then people start to know you and then, more and more and more. So it's, and as your credibility and brand expands, the materials and the team, they make sure that you're represented as best as you can possibly represent your brand. So overall, it's been a wonderful experience and a really easy one to be able to plug into the rest of my business. My personal goal was to create lead generation, right? And having that hopefully lead to sales. So our traffic has increased from, working with Interview LA. We get, tons of leads that come in through each podcast. So that's a huge deal, right? Like it actually is a lead generation tool and channel for us. And I believe one podcast, we netted $26,000 in gross revenue from booked calls from that particular podcast. And I was able to develop a relationship with the podcast host. So now he has become a strategic partner. He sends me referrals. I'm actually going to be a breakout speaker at his summit. So I would say the results are amazing in terms of, we've absolutely like 10x our ROI on the campaign. So I could do that all day. And I've built new relationships and even other channels for leads and accomplishing my goals that I hadn't even thought about. If you're thinking about, doing podcasting and you want it to be done in a very like professional, like turnkey manner, Interview Valley is probably the best out there. Absolutely. Also, if you're someone who's more quant, right? Like if you're more data driven and everything out there for podcasting seems a little fuzzy, in terms of being able to get metrics and being able to look at that side of things, they've actually nailed it. their analytics are really great. They're on point. They give you a dashboard so you are seeing what your campaigns and your goals are doing from their end, right? So I think that that combination of things is pretty incredible in the podcasting landscape and sets them apart from everybody else.